Star Wars Day. Woohoo! I hope you're all feeling the power of the Force today. May the Force be with you. My name's Amanda Joy. It's lovely to have you all here. Thank you for coming today to a little talk on superhero hypnosis. So, just a little question before we really get started, and you can pop the answer in the chat box if you'd like, or you can just make a note of it. What I'd like you to think about and make a note of is, what superhero were you as a child? What superhero were you as a child? And I'd also like you to think, who are your all-time favorite superheroes? And just write as many down as you can think of. We're getting geeky on today's talk. So I loved She-Ra. I don't know if you remember She-Ra. I used to love the Incredible Hulk as well. And I don't know if anybody remembers Thundercats. I don't know if I'm really showing my age. Thundercats and Superman, of course, everybody loved Superman. As I got older, I got really into science fiction, hence the overexcitement of the start of the Star Wars music today. It was just a great excuse to talk about something jolly and positive, and actually something I find really helpful for my clients as well. As I got older, I got more into science fiction. I love sci-fi, and fell in love with different types of superheroes. Doctor who can time travel. I love a bit of time traveling, and we can time travel in hypnosis. I love that. Jean-Luc Picard. I don't know if anybody knows Star Trek Next Generation. I think Tom's nodding. Jean-Luc Picard actually discovered ego state therapy, or family systems therapy, parts therapy, via some archaeological artifacts in space, which is quite interesting. So I think my love of hypnosis really, and certainly my passion for teaching parts therapy, comes from Star Trek Next Generation. Still loving the sci-fi heroes. I think my all-time favourite, like Emma, is Doctor Strange. Originally, he was a brilliant but arrogant neurosurgeon who Doctor Strange gets into a very horrific car accident, which results in his hands being very, very damaged beyond repair. His hands being his tools. He experiences great loss, depression, and as Western medicine fails him, he chooses to travel to Kathmandu, as you would do if Western medicine fails you, where he's introduced to the Ancient One. She discloses the astral plane, other dimensions, the multiverse. Don't get me excited about the multiverse. I love talking about stuff like that. She explains that to him. And she explains that the earth is protected by 3 sanctums. One's in New York, one's in London, and one in Hong Kong. In the film Doctor Strange, he goes on this very rapid healing journey. It's a journey of self-exploration before he has to step up and fight the enemy, Dormammu, I think he's called. I think that's how you pronounce it. But it wouldn't be Star Wars Day without discussing Star Wars and psychology. Well, in Star Wars, in all the movies in Star Wars, we see lots of stories of struggles that the individual characters have to understand and overcome deep problems of identity, problems with truth, problems with freedom, and the darker, more tragic sides of life. And there's a few new people just come on, so welcome. I am just going to mute you all. There we go. So yes, so we see these sort of struggles, and we see people having to deal with the darker side of life. And I love one of the quotes that comes from it. "I've become more powerful than any Jedi," says Count Dooku in Attack of the Clones. In Star Wars, the dark side is more powerful than the light. And it's one of the reasons why I think villains like Darth Vader, Count Dooku, and Emperor Palpatine and Kylo Ren are so intriguing. Even though these characters might not exactly be worthy of our admiration, their descent into darkness was accompanied by an increase in powers. Often when we're working with clients, negative emotions and experiences do have obviously a greater impact on people than the positive ones. And there's been lots of research into this. One classic study, researchers interviewed 3 groups of people. One group that had won the lottery about a year prior to the research, one group that had experienced a car accident and quite bad injuries as a result of a car accident, again about a year previous to the research, and then a control group that none of those outcomes were a reality for them. And after that full year had passed, the lottery winners, who you'd have thought would have been like, woohoo, celebrating, the lottery winners didn't actually report being any happier than those in the control group, showing that the positive emotions that totally must have existed at the point of winning the lottery, they soon kind of dissipated and disappeared. They quickly diminished after the win. On the other hand, the people who had experienced an accident, those sort of negative feelings continued on and persisted. So in other words, negative events certainly appear to influence people in a longer lasting way, far more so than positive ones. Negative emotions do seem to stick around for longer. Professor Roy Baumeister and his colleagues documented in the Review of General Psychology the phenomenon of dark being stronger, or negative emotions being stronger than the lighter ones, in numerous areas of life, including the ways that we learn, our friendships, and even our really intimate relationships. Negative interactions such as arguments appear to have more of a powerful impact on our romantic relationships than the positive ones, like bringing flowers home. In fact, on the basis of his longitudinal studies of married couples, researcher and couples therapist John Gottman has proposed that negative interactions are actually 5 times more powerful than positive ones. The darker side does have its advantages. Emperor Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith even says, I can't do the voice, the dark side is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. I did yesterday practice my Yoda voice and my Emperor Palpatine voice, but I just didn't do it very well. I just sounded like a very strange elderly Yorkshire person. So you're not getting the voices today. But in addition to the idea that the dark side is more powerful than the light, when people access the dark side of the Force, they do seem to unlock specific powers that practitioners of the light side seem to lack. I'm never going to be able to teach you or even demonstrate or show you or show my clients how to shoot force lightning from my fingertips. That would be good, wouldn't it? But research does support the idea that the darker emotions activate certain useful abilities within us that are positive. In other words, negative emotions, negative experience, traumatic events, while horrific and certainly unpleasant, can also be very useful. Anger can cause us to become violent and hurt people, but it can also motivate us to fight peacefully against injustices. Anxiety and fear, well, they can hold us back quite a lot of the time from taking risks, often necessary risks, but that anxiety can also lead us to take practical steps to protect ourselves, or to put systems in place, or to take better care of the people that we love in our lives. Sadness can often lead us to isolate ourselves and maybe even wallow in misery. I do love a good wallow myself every now and again. But it can also lead us to reconsider our lives. We've all had those moments when we've gone, oh, do you know what? I'm so fed up of this. I'm ready to make better choices. I'm in that place now, my rock bottom, where I want to change, and my desire to change becomes like an unstoppable force. And as Palpatine so rightly said in Revenge of the Sith, I can feel your anger. That was nearly good, wasn't it? I can feel your anger. It makes you stronger. It gives you focus. And anger can be a very useful tool for us. Negative emotions can focus our attention on possible sources of harm. They can help us to eliminate or avoid them. The dark side can easily consume us. And as Yoda says in The Empire Strikes Back, once you start down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny. Consume you, it will. You're supposed to do like a squeaky consume. I can't do it. I can't. Consume you, it will. But we know, don't we? I promise you I won't make you listen to me Yoda impressions. But we know that is actually not the case. That's not how negative emotions work. Negative emotions are a necessary and normal and unavoidable part of life, at least in measured amounts. It's really not in our best interest either to avoid them completely. Because they do provide us with opportunities. They provide us with opportunities to grow, to learn, and quite often to develop new skills. So I often say to my clients, when they are stuck in a dark place, they feel trapped, that they're like a seed. They're in the earth, they're covered in soil. It may be dark. They may feel trapped. They may feel like they're dealing with a whole heap of manure that life has thrown at them. However, they are in exactly the right conditions. They're in exactly the right place where they need to be. And I usually congratulate them on coming to ask for help or to receive help if they're sitting in my therapy chair, because they're in exactly the right place for the right conditions to germinate, to grow, and eventually they'll break through the earth. They'll have that breakthrough moment. They will flourish and blossom as a result of the experience that they've had, and they will actually become more resilient as a result of that as well. Counterintuitively, the best way to decrease negative emotions in the long run is to allow yourself to experience them in the short run. Dark emotions can sometimes be useful, and these feelings don't have to consume us. It's helpful for us to provide a safe space, tools and techniques that will really support and enable our clients to be able to accept those darker feelings, to embrace them, to feel them. They won't turn us to the dark side. They may actually even help us to tap into our inner Jedi powers. So as children, we play. we love to play, don't we? We play at being superheroes, and we tap into the super versions of ourselves, pretending to be these characters in childhood. Really helps us to form who we are. It helps us to form our identities. And actually, as adults, that can be really helpful. So what we can do is we can use simple timeline therapy. We can regress our client back and connect with these super versions of ourselves. Because as we get older, shouting, thunder, thunder, thundercats, ho! Yeah, it might not be so sociably acceptable, or running about with a bath towel tied around your neck becomes a little more sociably unacceptable. So we do tend to take our superpowers undercover. We hide our strengths under our mortal disguises. It's interesting. I was talking with a therapist just the other day, and he was saying that American therapists are all like, hey, I'm great, I'm so good at this, I'm marvelous, it's wonderful. But in the UK, we definitely, I think it's a cultural thing for us as well, we do hide our superpowers. We hide the super versions of ourselves. We're not comfortable, revealing our strengths even to people quite often. One of the reasons I love hypnosis is that it really does powerfully engage the imagination, and it allows us to tap into our superpowers. Life often does throw challenges our way. Perhaps we need to have great confidence. Perhaps we need to, or we desire to take risks. Maybe we just need to find the strength to sit with those negative, painful emotions. Having a sense of our own inner strength, having a sense of our superpowers within, can be really helpful. So superhero hypnosis can help clients face challenges in life. It can help them manage physical and emotional pain. It can help them to tap into their inner superpower, healing from trauma, strengthening the ego and self-perception, and supporting the immune system. Here we go. I need to tap into my Jedi powers to say this. Psychoneuroimmunology. That's what it helps us do. It helps us to work with the psychoneuroimmunology. So let's talk a little bit more about superhero hypnosis and why it's so super. Well, I'm sure I'm teaching a granny how to suck eggs with a few of these points, because we probably all know, don't we, that hypnosis is a multisensory experience. It allows for the transformation from the ordinary self to a superhero self. If you've ever wondered what it would be like to be Spider-Man or Superman or just about any superhero, well, you're in the right place, because you can use your imagination, and in hypnosis you can take that imagination to a really high level, and it can feel very real. Hypnosis helps us to magnify our thoughts. It filters out the noise, the unnecessary random thoughts, and it can get your mind really laser focused on a particular tool, a particular skill. It can help our clients to really focus on making positive changes, and just having a really fun, uplifting, amazing experience inside with your imagination. It can help you to feel and think like a superhero. And I'm sure, like me, when you were young, you dreamed of what it would be like to be a superhero. For me, when I was very young, I wanted to be She-Ra. But for you, it might be someone different. With hypnosis, we can actually step into Spider-Man's shoes, and we can experience what it's like to be Spider-Man, what it's like to shoot webs from our hands and swing from building to building. Also, what an adventure it is, helping people with your superpowers and knowing what you had to do to learn to be able to help those people. There's nothing greater than visiting your secret hideout in hypnosis, and getting to see what it's like inside out or outside, because like all superheroes, you need to relax, you need to restore your energy, and recharge your superpowers. And self-belief, how important is self-belief? It's vital, isn't it? Especially if we're facing transformation or challenge. It really is that faith in ourselves that gets us through. So understanding that we are far more than the sum of our experiences is really helpful. And if we're going to face challenges or take risks in life, if we can envision ourselves, if we can get a sense of ourselves as more than we are, if we can conceptualize that in some way, if we can quantify those ideas or images within a superhero metaphor, the superhero can become the embodiment of our inner strengths. And through the use of hypnosis, our clients' strengths can be brought out, they can be solidified, and they can become identifiable character traits. So hopefully somewhere you've written down who your favorite superheroes were as a child, or who your favorite superheroes are now. If you're geeky like me and you love watching sci-fi, maybe you've got some sci-fi superheroes like me. But I want you, maybe you've got a favorite superhero, maybe you've got a favorite villain, maybe you love Darth Vader, or maybe you've got a favorite villain. It doesn't matter, superhero or supervillain. Have a little think about what superpowers or abilities they have. Like laser eyes, do they have super strength? Have they got can they make things turn to ice? Very good if you're menopausal, if you do that for perimenopausal and menopausal, turn things to ice, like that. Pac-Man, I quite like a Pac-Man. But think about, how could these powers actually be helpful in a therapeutic sense? As a therapeutic application, if you feel brave, you can drop your answers in the chat box. But let's talk a bit more about the superhero metaphor. Well, the superhero that is chosen or created, because we can create one that fits the needs of our clients, or whatever it is selected by our client, it's a symbolic metaphor. And as Erickson suggested, using hypnosis may actually be a better way to work with clients. It avoids direct confrontation of their subconscious beliefs. If I'm working with somebody who's got chronic pain, we all know one of the biggest challenges are secondary gains. It's quite often easier for a client to be able to think about a superhero rather than their own superhero abilities. Certainly it can be a step towards therapeutic intervention or successful therapy. The use of metaphor, especially via that representation of superheroes or villains, allows clients to express unconscious feelings, self-perceptions and desires. I've actually found that it sometimes helps clients to really open up as well, because they're not comfortable talking about themselves, but they will be more comfortable talking about a villain or a superhero that they relate to or resonate with. With the superhero metaphor or the villain metaphor, they can embrace and internalize desired traits, and they can reject the undesirable ones. Through the use of metaphor and indirect suggestion, deeper meaning can also be conveyed. When a superhero is presented as a part of a bigger story, perhaps the cause of the superpower. Maybe they had an accident like Doctor Strange, and went on this healing journey, or maybe they drank a magic potion and something changed within them, or they fell into some kind of were part of some kind of scientific experiment that went wrong. Whatever it is, usually a disaster, isn't it, that it starts with? That part of that story, and how they live as that superhero can actually bring a deeper message to your therapy session. And in some cases, you can actually just anchor those really resourceful feelings, those superpower feelings. Those superpower resourceful states, you can just anchor them in. The superhero hypnotherapy becomes a really powerful medium for focusing on learning new behaviors, skills, and emotions within the subconscious. I'm going to have a quick look in the chat box and see if anyone's been daring enough to share. Yeah, just Doctor Strange, and from challenges come growth. Absolutely. And that's exactly what we want our clients to understand, that what they've been through might be disastrous and traumatic and painful and horrific. They can become more resilient. They can become stronger as a result of what they've been through. And we can get them to tap into that. And we can get them to see what they've learned from it, tune into their strengths. And I think we get real healing when a person can get to a place where they go, do you know what, that was awful, but wow, was I courageous to survive that moment? Was I super powerful to get through that difficult time in my life, and to feel that courageousness still with them? I think that's real healing there. So I wanted to talk a little bit about pain management, managing pain with superhero hypnosis. This is an area where I have used it quite a lot with children and with adults as well. The Care Bears. Oh yeah, the Care Bears. Superhero Care Bears. Yeah, do they cure things and heal things with love and peace? And they're a bit too fuzzy around the edge for me. I prefer Darth Vader. And I think, did somebody put Dracula in there? I don't know if we've got Dracula or Frankenstein as well, maybe. Yeah, on the side of Dracula. It's because they were chasing him with pitchforks. Poor Dracula. Anyway, continuing. Managing pain with superhero hypnosis. Oh, Penny Crayon. I'm going to talk about her, I think, in a moment. Pain has been viewed as evolving from either physical or psychological causes, and the most recent DSM-5 edition does offer diagnostic criteria that would suggest there's real or organic or functional or imagery basis for pain. Selick and Zara found that in randomized controlled studies of hypnosis in managing cancer pain, substantial evidence for improvement does exist when non-pharmacological pain management approaches are being used. A constructionist view was proposed by Chapman and Nakamura, who suggested that hypnosis alters the learned pain experience by interacting with feedback processes that prime the associations and memories that are connected to pain, which is really interesting because I can see superhero hypnosis really helping there. In hypnosis, the client, obviously we can help them by disassociating them from that discomfort. And individuals do report that they've had significantly reduced levels of pain. The discomfort is more tolerable, it's more controllable, and certainly when we're working with clients and we're taking them into those deeper states of trance, like somnambulistic state or Esdale state trance, pain responses are lowered or even switched off altogether. And Gruzelia said that the anterior cingulate cortex, in conjunction with the frontolimbic inhibitory processes, enables clients to suspend reality testing, suspend reality testing and critical evaluation, obviously both very conscious characteristics. In addition, the amygdala is inhibited. That's the fight or flight response, kind of gets chilled out a little bit, and the hippocampus is activated. The hippocampus is the part of the brain that helps us to process negative experiences, negative emotions, negative events in a better way. So suspending reality is exactly what we do when we become Wonder Woman, Superman, or Jean-Luc Picard. Hypnosis is a way of accessing the super abilities of superheroes and enabling them to be experienced in a unobstructive, cognitive and physiological manner. Clients who experience pain, be it physical pain or emotional pain, I don't see any difference between the two really, they do seem to actually be more susceptible to hypnosis. They tend to respond quicker and better, and induced superhero characteristics or qualities can be adapted much stronger in a much more powerful way as well. Clients who really struggle with pain may even spontaneously move into a more altered state of awareness and may rapidly enter trance as a means of escaping their pain. Chronic pain's been shown to have both physical and psychological components. It's been shown to result in lowered self-esteem, feelings of hopelessness, despondency, which can be alleviated quite well by hypnosis via sort of empowerment work and obviously our tools and techniques that we use for pain management. Acute pain, that's not cute, it's acute, and it's usually not very nice, but it's usually it's usually sort of what happens initially before it becomes chronic. That acute pain is frequently associated with increased anxiety. So at this stage, the patient, the client, is still trying to escape their pain. They won't have developed at this point those neural pathways or strong emotional associations or connections to the pain yet. So if these associations can be kind of like got around, if they can be circumvented by empowering the client with super heroic levels of physical and emotional strength, that acute pain pathology can even be prevented from becoming a chronic pain pathology. Anbar in 2001 found that children who have reoccurring abdominal pain in the absence of an identifiable psychological cause without a proper diagnosis, they found that without that label, without that diagnosis, without those kind of neural pathways having been kind of set in place, those connections being set in place, yet they found that they responded really well with just one session of hypnosis. And so traditional approaches to pain management, we tend to use glove anesthesia, it's one of our favorites, or some kind of transference of pain off the body or taking it out of the body. There's lots of different forms of dissociation and loads of suggestions and metaphors that we use And Carlson et al. Reported on the effectiveness of hypnosis in helping patients to reinterpret painful experiences and reduce negative associations. So hypnotic intervention with there's loads and loads of evidence enables patients to experience the qualities of superheroes in overcoming a multitude of emotional and physical limitations. It can alter their sense of self, and in doing so, it will enable them to take on new or alternative qualities or traits. And these may be covertly self-perceived limitations, or overtly in terms of like habitual changes, like cracking knuckles if you've got arthritis, or just changing the way that you live your life, changing lifestyles. By becoming a superhero character in trance, while in trance, and maintaining the ability to call up the characteristics via post-hypnotic suggestion or anchoring, the person will be able to transform into the character regardless of the time or the place, and these helpful character traits can be locked in and become conscious, known, viable parts of the self. So let me just talk you through a couple of examples. So a few that I've used with adults and a few that I've found really effective with children. So my first example is the healing garden. So here in a healing garden, superhero metaphor, we get the clients to enlist their own healing forces. So after the induction and deepener, whichever depth you're choosing, whichever is most appropriate for your client. If they've got very bad pain, I do like to work with my clients in a somnambulistic or an Esdale state, because it helps them to have a bit of a holiday from that discomfort. So you set up the healing garden space. It's tranquil, it's peaceful, it's comforting, it's secure, it's beautiful. There's lots of colours and smells and sounds and sensations. I quite like to have a water feature, a fountain, and suggest the clients can feel some of the spray of the droplets of water from the fountain, so that I'm really engaging all of the senses and creating a lovely relaxing space where clients can easily relax, and making suggestions just to let go completely becomes very easy. So we suggest that the garden itself is a healing place where many people before them have come to benefit from the healing powers of the holy men and the holy women who have been in this garden through the ages. So I make the suggestion that these holy men and holy women have been sent to this garden by an almighty power. Depending on your client's belief systems, you might want to bring God into it, or you might want to bring universal life force energy, or you could just have it as a bit of a sort of a science fiction-y superhero story. You're going to tweak it to work with whoever is sitting in front of you, but suggest that these holy men and women have been sent to this garden to help heal anyone who is struggling or who is suffering. So your holy men or your holy women are your superheroes in this one. I like to then suggest that the client can maybe hear a voice calling to them. Great for your clients, very auditory. And that sound is moving close towards them, and then appearing in front of them is some kind of being of light, a being of infinite wisdom, sent to them from a power that transcends all. I suggest that they can feel that power. Perhaps a gentle warming sensation flowing through their body. Perhaps the healer can touch areas of their body that needs healing, all the time, suggesting that is a growing feeling of well-being, and that these feelings of well-being can move through their body from a cellular level. Every fibre of their being is feeling calm. It's stimulating their body's own healing forces. finding any areas of discomfort in the body, soothing, relaxing, encouraging blood flow, carrying vital oxygen and nutrients through the body system to every organ, richly supplying the body's defense system, moving to seek out all intrusions, regenerating, stimulating, purifying, healing, whatever it is that you know your client is wanting to move towards, what their objectives are. My second example, and I have got 3, but I'm going to not have time to share them all, is the He-Man metaphor. I only put this one in because I love She-Ra, and He-Man's the participating other half. In the consultation, if I'm going to use like a character like He-Man, I'm going to ask the client what feelings, what thoughts, what actions do they feel would, or do they know would help them to heal, to rehabilitate, or to have their discomfort reduced. Like, do they want it to feel warmer? Do they want to feel cooler? Do they want to feel numb? Do they want to feel more empowered? What is it that they want? And I write a list of those things. So now I've got my list of characteristics that the client has told me they need. And of course, I'm going to find a superhero that fits that. So let's say the needs of the client that's in front of me are to take direct control over pain and discomfort. So I want pain reduction, I want pain control. Maybe a second need is to connect deeper with feelings of strength, to connect with power, to connect with energy, to fight an illness like cancer. Or to work via that psychoneuroimmunology imagery approach to actually recover from the illness, to use the power of the mind to help to heal the body. And I know that as a therapist early on, I was really skeptical about that whole mind-body connection until I met several people through doing my podcast who had recovered from paralysis, I think is the biggest one for me, and healed themselves from cancers. And I've met so many hundreds of people now who've healed themselves using the power of their mind. There really is something in it. So I'm up for embracing that as part of as a part of the metaphor that's going to help them. So I'd begin by the usual, like relaxing the mind, relaxing the body, utilizing my chosen superhero metaphor, like their favorite hero, superhero, whatever it is that symbolically meets the needs that I've established in the consultation. So, for example, a young male client with cancer who's on multiple medications, is experiencing a range of pain, some directly attributable to the cancer, the illness, but in addition, he's experiencing nausea and discomfort as a side effect of the medications. I'm sure we've all had clients that have come to us with these sorts of things. The client chooses his favorite character, which is He-Man. And He-Man, like many superheroes, is fearless, is strong, is all-powerful and immortal. I love that bit. Once in trance, the client is encouraged to experience the transformation from Prince Adam. If you're not big He-Man fans, Prince Adam is his mortal, not powerful self, like before he shouts by the power of Grayskull. He's the ordinary character, and He-Man is the strongest man in the universe. What's important here is to guide the client to identify with the character of Prince Adam, but also to identify their fears with the illness, the cancer and the pain with that mortal state, with the Prince Adam state. And then be able to face them with a reduced amount of fear and pain head on. In the superhero immortal state, in the He-Man state. So an interesting note to make with this particular metaphor is that He-Man's nemesis was a supervillain called Skeletor, like this kind of skeleton-looking baddie. And with this client, the illness had actually metastasized to his bones. So that was where the battle took place in this particular therapy. In trance, reality was suspended. The client easily transformed first into the character of Prince Adam, then to He-Man. Then as He-Man then re-entered the body of Prince Adam, he then fought Skeletor, his cancer, while feeling less discomfort, with no pain. The pain becomes disassociated. He was disassociated from his discomfort, which meant he could like shake off the pain. Sadly, not happy ending this one. In the real world, Skeletor ultimately won that final battle, but via hypnosis and superhero transformation, the client in this case was able to fight with a lot less pain right up until the very end. So the client will need to learn how to enter a trance state. So self-hypnosis is also very beneficial. Once in trance, the client can then begin to feel the feelings and sensations of being that Prince Adam or the non-superhero character. At this point, it's important to engage all of the 5 senses: sight, hearing, taste, touch, smell, the kinesthetic, the auditory, the sensations into the experiences. Once the client becomes Prince Adam, joke. My Jedi powers are clearly fading with my voice. Once the client becomes Prince Adam, the client can then transform into He-Man. He would raise his imaginary sword. Excuse me. He would raise his imaginary sword into the air, which actually was his crutch, and recite, "By the power of Grayskull," great anchor that you can anchor in any of those phrases, or install any anchor to activate that superhero state and transform. So if he was having a bit of a bad day, he would lift his crutch up and he would say, "By the power of Grayskull," and he would instantly have that ability to tap into those resourceful states. So now the client's He-Man. So he can now be transported to a new world that exists within his body, or within the body of Prince Adam. And the trance state allows this to occur very easily. The client feels no pain and can defeat Skeletor time and time and time again. The results are that the bone pain that he was experiencing, the medication side effects were also diminished. The client would raise his crutch into the air, recite the transformation, and upon putting his crutch back down on the ground, he became He-Man, and he felt empowered and strong, and like he could deal with anything and he could overcome anything. For girls, you could use She-Ra. The metaphor works great to feel empowered, strong, fearless, immortal, and pain-free, as well as having that communication with the mind, that psychoneuroimmunology imagery approach. Sometimes clients struggle to get into the superhero mode, particularly if you're working with adults. I tend to use like timeline regression to regress them back to a positive memory of when they were playing at being a superhero, and I might use that as the basis. And then while they're there, I might make lots of suggestions that your body and mind knows how to heal your wounds. It knows how to fight infections. Your mind just does this all by itself. The focus is on allowing the individual to really trust their subconscious mind, to allow the healing to occur and to support it. Suggestions could be based around the idea that the mind may remember, for adults, images which help them to feel strong and help them to heal. Superhero hypnosis is also really beneficial for working with people with trauma. There are lots and lots and lots and lots of evidence to show that hypnosis is good for working with trauma. I did a talk on trauma last month, so if you want to check out the website, it's on there for you to have a look at. I tend to do the same sort of thing. I ask which superhero could be of most help to them, depending on what experience they've been through. Instead of, I would use ego strengthening techniques to help them feel or see the positive sides of things. Like, I've been through this really dark time, but I can connect with my courage. I can see I've been through this really dark time, but I can connect with that fight for justice that I've always had within me. I never gave up. I was relentless with my inner strength. So I might tap into what I'm hearing their inner strengths are. And instead of maybe getting them in touch with their inner child or the part of themselves that's been injured as a result of the trauma, I encourage the client to communicate with their inner superhero. So we incorporate techniques that guide the client to tune into their self-talk, often negative self-talk if they're not in a good place when they're coming to see you. And this, obviously, we can then investigate the language and find out how are they talking to themselves, see if any of that language is actually supporting or maintaining any of the trauma symptoms. But what I love about superhero hypnosis is it provides a role model. A lot of the people that I work with are recovering from substance misuse. That's kind of my area, and people who've been stuck in sort of addiction cycles for many years, they haven't really got very many positive influences in their life. That's one of the challenges of kind of going back into a normal life, is that their world is very often full of unhelpful connections. So role models are quite difficult to find, and family members are quite often, if they've been brought up and they've got an unhealthy behavior, it's quite often their family members have also got similar or the same kind of sets of unhealthy behaviors and characteristics. So it's really difficult to guide a client towards a solution if they haven't got an idea of what that solution looks like, feels like, is like, if they can't get a sense of what being healed from that is like. So the superhero metaphor provides a framework and or a method that the client can use to guide them towards their solution. Really quickly talk about my go-to techniques when I'm working with clients who have experienced trauma. I like the 3-phase intervention protocol for PTSD. So impact, post-disaster, and recovery. So impact, well, that's really about getting the client, the PTSD sufferer, to feel very safe. to feel very calm, to feel very relaxed, to feel very safe. This actually reduces the severity of the symptoms. We want, while we're in that place, we want to be able to help support them to increase their inner resources by boosting their self-esteem and their self-confidence. So the aim is to improve emotion regulation, to increase tolerance to distress and stressful situations. Our aim really with this part of the therapeutic protocol is to achieve a state of calm, a state of mindfulness, a sense of control over their body and their responses. So a superhero that comes to mind for me here would be Iron Man. Does anybody know what Iron Man is? Tony Stark was Iron Man. We can see in the movies that Tony Stark uses avoidance, changing the subject when talking with Pepper Potts, Gwyneth Paltrow character. When she's discussing with him like the dangers of that he's going to continue to face as a superhero, he don't want to talk about it. We see him avoiding sleep as much as possible because he's escaping from the night terrors. When asked to sign children's pictures about the Battle of New York City, Stark has to leave the building to get his emotions under control. All relatable signs of anxiety and PTSD. I think we can use him because he's a very relatable character if our clients know the Iron Man story. Stark has those constant fears that one day he's going to let everyone down, he's going to let down the people who he loves, and he deals with this by retreating from everybody. He isolates himself, and actually he builds loads of Iron Man suits. He builds as many as he can, and each suit, and there are several, they're protective armor. They enable them to travel, to move around, which is also helpful for our clients if they're finding getting out and about very difficult. They're portable suits, and they assemble around Stark's body, covering each part of the body with a portable protective armor is a very useful metaphor. Many of us already use the idea of a protective bubble or a protective white light around us. We suggest that people surround themselves with this protective white light or a bubble of protective energy. This kind of shield metaphor prevents our clients from absorbing negative things from around them. The idea of the light shield could even be incorporated, a protective layer that covers your entire body, your aura, depending on your client's beliefs. An energetic light shield or a suit of armor will bring about these sensations of safety, security, and comfort, energy boosting, fortification of your energy, protection from external forces getting you or getting to you. This kind of bubble or armor is a really robust metaphor. It can be altered and applied to lots of different scenarios. Clients can be guided to enable this bubble to filter out specific information, specific things that might be more triggering or more harmful. And of course, we can create a feeling of calm and safety within this suit of armor, within this stage. The post-disaster phase is stage 2. This is where we have a re-evaluation, a reappraisal of the traumatic memories, the traumatic experience. And at this stage, as therapists, we are really cautious. We don't want to re-traumatize our clients. And they need to be in a well enough space to reevaluate what happened to them. We might want to disassociate them from that so we can work with those memories in some way. But this could be better accessed, it could be better viewed if supported by a superhero. If you've got a superhero there with you holding your hand, it might not be so bad. Or if you're wearing a suit of armor that prevents you from engaging too much with that, if you're the superhero yourself, sort of visiting that as a viewer, it's going to really help you as well. We can then help our client to understand what they didn't have in that moment, what their needs was. We can hold their hand, we can guide them. We can help them to release the trauma with the assistance of the superhero. Then in phase 3, we're talking about recovery. And at this point, we're looking to apply new knowledge, new insight, new skills, maybe even knowledge that you've gained as a result of the traumatic experience that you've had. We want to help them so that they don't relapse in any way, so they can actually use what they've learned from the superhero, from the experience of being that superhero, to help them with their lives. I'll share with you a quick story. A client who was really into Buffy the Vampire Slayer was struggling to talk about a sexual assault, but was really happy to open up when discussing episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So if you don't know, Buffy the Vampire Slayer is a teen hero, and every episode Buffy experiences traumas. I don't know how she hasn't got PTSD, but she seems to manage somehow. And when Buffy told her friend Spike the vampire, "Everything I feel, everything I touch, this is hell," the client reported that this was exactly how she felt every single day. Over time, and with help of seeing the parallels between Buffy's fictional experiences and overcoming traumas of living well after traumatic events, and her own reality, the client was then able to start to understand that her thoughts weren't always accurate, and she began to understand how to change her thoughts and adapt her behaviours and her mental health to begin to rapidly improve as well. I have got a little bit more that I was going to say, but I have completely run out of time. We can use I love the idea of getting Pac-Man inside the body, eating up cancer cells. I like the idea of incorporating Superman and sort of using Superman's ability to kind of zap with his laser eyes, zap away the cancer cells of a body, or to heal or to change or to alter things. When we're working with children, we just need to be careful that after a session they don't actually attempt to really fly, because I know when I was a kid I used to really think I wanted to fly. So as Spider-Man says, with great power comes great responsibility. We need to ensure that we are providing safety for our children. And using superheroes with adults is really not any different from using superheroes with children. I think the main barrier for us as therapists is the fear of looking a bit daft. We don't want to appear a bit silly. And I found that some adults do feel a bit odd or a bit uncomfortable with this technique to begin with, but the lightheartedness of incorporating their favourite superheroes from childhood does often very quickly put them at ease. It can be really helpful, especially if they've got fears that the therapy session is going to be very emotionally painful, very serious, or very traumatic. And as adults, it's really important, the ability to alter physiological functioning via cognitive processes such as hypnosis becomes increasingly valuable. The use of superhero imagery can significantly enhance the process. Even the geriatric population were once young and had more prowess than they currently possess, the opportunity to return to those youthful fantasies, both psychologically and physically, are really empowering. Suggestions of increased powers, gait pain control or functioning, anchoring in those superhero tools, techniques, feelings, are just, it's just an amazing thing. We can build confidence. We can certainly get people to connect with their inner powerfulness. And in hypnosis, we maybe are going to be able to help them to become a man of steel, or Wonder Woman, or a Jedi Knight, or even Darth Vader himself, if it's appropriate. Sometimes as therapists, we need every possible implement on Earth or from space, no matter how vague or fictional or silly, to help our clients. When I'm facing a difficult situation that's overwhelming or daunting, I love the fact that I can simply close my eyes and use the force. And wherever you're watching from today, thank you for coming. May the force be with you.